Hello again. Again? Yeah, sure, again. I'm back. I decided to start doing these morning videos again. Whether or not they'll be daily, I don't know. But I'm back on the detox bandwagon. I started using the Delta 8s when we were on vacation this year, and coming back from vacation, I quite enjoyed the feeling of using the Delta 8 products. Didn't make me as much of a brainlet as regular dope was. But of course, it ended up making me into as much of a dope. My short-term memory became much worse using the Delta 8 stuff than it was with the regular marijuana, and the withdrawal has been worse actually. I was heavy using. I was going through a gram, probably a bit over a gram a week with a vape, and then also doing edibles over the weekends. Particularly the last couple of weeks leading up to the day that I stopped, the use was quite high. So I had withdrawals, and the withdrawals that I've been having is, like usual, the insomnia, but it almost feels more physical than emotional. Like I haven't really had any emotional stuff. I've been more sensitive, and the wife and I have snapped at each other a couple of times. She's pregnant, and I'm in withdrawal. So this weekend was a fun weekend, but anyway, I'm quitting it. I'd like to start doing these videos again as a way to sort of get my crazy talk out in the morning and get it on somewhere, and then put it up, and then be able to go back and look at it and look at where I was at this time in my life. But what I wanted to talk about today, briefly, was the female dating strategy subreddit. It has gained some notoriety as being a place where women can go to get strategies for how to sort of become more in control of what's going on in dating. And when I first went to this, it was probably a couple of years ago. I went here and I noticed that much of what I was seeing in the sub resembled what I had seen in the Red Pill subreddit when that was still around, before they got rid of it because of its, well, multiple reasons really. And not entirely unforeseen reasons, but I'll get into that a little bit later on. But there were a couple of main differences that I noticed between the Red Pill and female dating strategy that made me think it was useful to do a video on this, just to kind of clarify my thoughts and at least put it out there, what I think the comparison looks like, and why, in my opinion, the Red Pill was a more positively focused subreddit than the female dating strategy subreddit is, and why I think the Red Pill got so much more popular than this subreddit has become popular, and why it was so fast. Say what you want about the Red Pill subreddit. There was toxicity, there was anger, there was depression, there was misogyny, there was all kinds of things. There was a lot of really negative stuff in there. But from the outset, my experience in the Red Pill was coming from a place of confusion. I was a low-value male. Using female dating strategy terms, I was a low-value male for a long time. And after having a series of really shitty things happen in my life, in my first big relationship, my first marriage, I went looking for advice because I didn't know how to become a more high-value male. I didn't know what I needed to do. I was overwhelmed with the possibilities. And I stumbled across the Red Pill through some motivational expert's website where he linked to a specific thread that was talking about like the way that men and women date, and how it's different, and how what men are looking for is different from what women are looking for, particularly in the dating scene, at different ages and in different sort of levels. And the Red Pill was talking about, not about long-term relationships or marriage. It was talking about the attraction and how to become a more attractive male, so that you could use that to essentially get access to more women. Now, the outcome of it isn't necessarily the important part here. The important part for Red Pill, from what I observed, was twofold. Number one, it provided a lot of excellent advice that was stripped of all the usual feminine, like, bullshittery and mustard gas. It was direct, and it was to the point, and it was easy to follow. So that was one of the most important things that I noticed right away. And it was good advice. Like, good advice. Go to the gym. If you're a young dude and you're out of shape, you're automatically not attractive to women because you're out of shape. So go to the gym. On top of that, it makes you into a better person because it teaches you how to deal with adversity, and it makes you have to go out of your comfort zone and get fit, and it makes you learn about yourself, and you learn about your motivations and your goals and your ability to goal set. So that advice by itself, even if the whole subreddit had literally just been go to the gym, it would have been a positive influence because it was getting guys to go to the gym. But the second big part of the red pill that I think was the other most important thing to sort of focus on was that it was a place for men to go and vent about the frustrations that they had with dating and with women. And considering that the world that we live in now, and I know I'll probably get I get pushback from this all the time from women and from friends of mine who are more progressive, but if you were born and turn into an attractive woman, the only way that life is hard is if you were born into extreme poverty as an attractive woman. If you're born into anywhere close to the middle class as an attractive woman, you could set your life on easy mode and just cruise through and have no issues. You could set up camp in a guy's life. The more attractive you are, the easier it is to do that, and of course the higher value male you can end up setting yourself into. You run across this every once in a while when you meet women who've divorced from rich guys who are the same age as their husband. They were hot, they got picked up by their husband who was a high value male, and then eventually the husband was like, yeah, this isn't working. And she was like, yeah, this isn't working. And then they separate, and you could tell. She's an attractive older woman who lives in a nice house and talks about the country club that she used to do stuff at and blah, blah, blah. Anyway. So those two things. Good advice, direct advice that was completely stripped down of all the bullshit that the feminization of self-help has really kind of led to. And the woman focus on self-help too, because self-help for men is a decent enough sized market, but it doesn't come even close to the self-help women market. And then of course it's a place for men to vent. It was a space for men to come in, or boys to come in and vent about their lack of success. And that's an important thing to have, because if you don't have anywhere to vent about your lack of success, you're not going to meet someone who might be able to point you in the right direction, for starters. So you're not going to meet anyone who can help you with improving yourself. And the second part is that if you keep all that shit in, when you finally do land a relationship, it's all turned to resentment. And so you're going to act out that resentment with the woman that you're with, which is going to make you less attractive and less likely to stay with her or be able to attract other women. So to me, the red pill had a couple of really good points going for it. Now, in amongst all of the venting, of course, there was misogyny, and there was woman hating, and there was hyperbolic, overarching statements that made no sense and that were completely fictional, but it was just the emotional discharge of someone who had tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed at having access to women. And then you add, of course, the Me Too and the cultural sensitivity around men approaching women to try to talk to them, to get them to go on a date with them. If you're not an attractive man, it's essentially harassment. But if you're an attractive man, then it's absolutely welcome. And a lot of that is in how you appear and how you do the delivery. And the red pill provided you with the framework to start working on those strategies. They never once said that there's guarantees. They never once said that they were looking to promote for long-term relationships or for marriages. On the sidebar, and in many of the posts, people said, if you're looking for advice when you get into marriage, it's a different subreddit, it's a totally different game. But again, the main point was that it was a place for young men to go and vent about their lack of success and get advice and commiseration. Men being able to put their arms around one another as bros and say, fuck dude, that really sucks. It sucks that happened to you, that she cheated on you with your best friend and then got pregnant and then tried to convince you that it was yours. Or that she took all your money and then left. Or that she got married to you, you had a kid, and then as soon as the kid was born, she wanted a divorce and she got full custody. Or any number of other absolutely have happened scenarios where a woman has fucked over a guy. It was a place for bros to be bros, but also not in a touchy-feely way, but in a they're there, now get out there and go do some goddamn work. Because that's the only way you're getting out of this, is by putting your fucking boots on the ground and pounding cement. When I compare that to the female dating strategy, there's a couple of things that stand out right away. And the first thing that stood out to me was, with the female dating strategy, is this little blurb here. The only dating subreddit exclusively for women. We focus on effective dating strategies for women who want to take control of their dating lives. The first thing that sticks out to me about this is that it talks about women wanting to take control of their dating lives. And I think when I read through a lot of these threads, the philosophy or maybe the attitude of the ideology is that women should be the one. These women are the ones who, their strategy is to take the decision making away from the man, right? You don't get to decide who's in a relationship. I decide who's in a relationship because I'm going to be the best person in this relationship. So therefore you would want to be with me, but you have to come up to my standard to be with me. If that's the foundational position of your ideology, then it seems to me that the most obvious outcome of that is that the only kind of men you're going to have meaningful long-term contact with are men who are low value. Because only low value men ask for permission to be in a relationship with a woman. Or only low value men require improving to bring them up to the standard where the woman is at. So to me, what this really says is it's how to groom a low value male into a good partner, or how to be the one who decides if there is a relationship or not. And in both of those situations, the only man who's going to be involved with you is the man that you don't want to be involved with you. Because a high value man is going to say, he's going to watch you try all these strategies out. And let's have a look at some of these strategies, for argument's sake. Some of these strategies, and then look at the type of men that high value men are and what they're going to observe based on what these strategies would look like to them. A classic one that I saw here was here. I used to get so bored and broke off pretty much everything I was in within 4 months flat. But he keeps it exciting because he never really knows if he has me. What that tells me is that she's playing the same game that a high value man would play, or even a middle value game that a guy would play to get a woman to be more interested in him. It's playing a little bit hard to get, a little bit hard to get in touch with, seeming as if you've got other shit going on. Excuse me. And that, what this person here, Monkey Money 21, the strategy coach, oh god, it's nothing is more cringeworthy than when unqualified people try to fucking say that they're some kind of coach. I'm fully unqualified. This is all my opinion. This is all my observations. But what she's saying here is that he never really knows if he has me. Now, a high value male, that might work on him for a little while, but high value men are rare. They're more rare than low value or middle value men. In fact, high value men are basically like the catch. And the catches are rare. If catches are rare, then it means that not every woman is going to be able to have access to a high value male. And men who are high value, because they know that they're rare, they know that they have options. So a woman who constantly makes you chase her around, she changes everything up, through the dating process, she's acting like you would act to get a woman to be a little bit, not insecure, but off her kilter a little bit, a little unsafe. A woman reversing that and doing it to a man, to a high value man, he's going to recognize it as game immediately. And he's going to go, oh, you're trying to game me. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to be married or in a relationship with another man. I want to be in a relationship with a woman. And then another one in this thread, actually the first comment, the most upvoted comment one, which this blows my mind. This actually blows my mind. And that's me being hyperbolic. But If that's an actual quote from this book, Why Men Love Bitches, then that's a shitty book. I'm sure there's some good points in there, I'm sure of it, but this to me seems silly. Anytime a woman competes with another woman, she demeans herself. Now, I don't know about you, but women competition exists outside of dating. A little afterthought about that little sentence that I just made is that I would bet that most of the women that are on female dating strategy are loser females, which is why they all get so they're all submerged with loser males. That's generally how it tends to go. You do find loser women with high value men, but those loser women don't usually stay there that long. Normally the reason that a loser woman is in with a high value man is because she's crazy in the sack. Or because she's got something over on her, maybe. But anyway, anytime a woman competes with another woman, she demeans herself. This statement, it's the most upvoted in here. It's a powerful quote, apparently, something that women need to get through their heads. But it flies directly in the face of the things that we're being told in society that we should be out there supporting. Anytime a woman competes. So what about if she's competing in sport? What about if she's competing for a job? What about if she's competing for attention? If you have two girls and they're competing for attention from their parents. So there are a lot of instances in life where women compete with one another and it's perfectly fine and they don't demean themselves. And in reality, when women compete with each other in a group, the group competing against one another elevates the whole group. So that whoever wins, they are the representation of the best of that competition and should be celebrated. But this philosophy says that they're demeaning themselves. And so what that does is it means that women don't compete with one another for men. So essentially what this philosophy is saying, or what this sentence is saying is that if you have access to a high value man and another woman comes along, if you compete with her, you're demeaning yourself. So are you just supposed to let that high-value male go? Because high-value males aren't everywhere. And with the world becoming more and more leaned towards the supporting of women's success and female success, there's going to be more and more male losers. So if you're not competing with other women for high-value men, then you're going to only get the losers or the middle-value men. Which then brings us back to that point earlier where we talk about this woman. She's talking about how he keeps it exciting because he never really knows if he has her. To me, based on the foundational philosophy of this ideology, all it is finding ways to make yourself feel better about not getting high-value males, while at the same time grooming the low-value males that you do have access to be better for you. So ultimately, this strategy just circles itself right back to where they started from. Except, of course, that you have the mustard gas bullshit all around it. All the extra words, all the nonsensical, all the pseudo-scientist and the pseudo-philosophy and the pseudo, which is what I'm doing now, but again, I'm saying that this is an opinion. I don't have an ideology on this. This is just my opinion. And then when we really look at the whole bigger picture, to me, it just seems as if this is just a way for loser females to circle the toilet, convincing themselves that they're worthy of something, while at the same time pushing away the men that they're aiming for, and only ever having access to low-value males. And the red pill wasn't a circle. The red pill was a line, and it was actually a gradient line. It went up. You started at your worst point when you got there. You started at your lowest point when you arrived in that subreddit. And by the time you were done, and because I was done, I was in there for probably 2 years. I learned a lot, and I applied a lot of what I learned, and it was true, and it worked. Some of it was bullshit. Some of it was out of my scope. Some of it I wasn't attractive enough to be able to put to work. But the stuff that worked for me really did work. And eventually, it got to a point where I didn't need it anymore, and I stopped going, and I unsubbed, and then, a couple of years later, they quarantined it. I was sad, because other young men could have used those materials to better themselves. And now you have to go like the underground of internet to find that stuff anymore. Whereas on Reddit, I don't remember how many they had at the highest, but I want to say it was well into the hundreds of thousands, if not in the millions, for people who were subscribed to it. It was a very big subreddit. So female dating strategy is the outcome is to try to get high value males, right? The female dating strategy is how they can better themselves and how they can use strategies to take control of their dating lives and get the outcomes that they want. But the strategies are going to push away high value males because it's essentially women are trying to game men, and a woman that's gaming a man isn't going to be that attractive to a high value male. He's not going to want to have to be in a relationship with another dude or someone who's acting like another dude. So then the high value males aren't interested, so that only leaves the middles and the lows. And if the middles is what you're aiming for, then great. But I never see them talk about the middle value males in here. It's always the polar extremes. It's always the high values and the low values. So using their own sort of worldview that they've created, they really only have access to the low value males with this strategy. Because high value males are just going to piss off. And the low value males, again, will come up to standard to meet their standard. So female dating strategy, the output to me, and I know I've said this already, but I'm trying to clarify the thought here. The female dating strategy to me is that it's circular. You start off as a loser with a loser male, you apply a bunch of strategies, and then you still end up as a loser with a loser male. You could call yourself a queen all day long, but if the only guy that's attracted to you is a loser, then you're probably a loser too. Or you're in a bad geographical area and you need to move. Which is something else I hear that women in this subreddit don't do. We don't move for men. That's a very limiting way to look at life. Husbands and boyfriends will move around, just like girls will move around. There's reasons why you go with your partner sometimes. Whereas the red pill, it was a linear line. You come in at your lowest and you stay on the line until you don't need to be on the line anymore. Some guys get out at 1, some guys get out at 2, some guys get out at 3. For me, it was 2. I got out and I never really went back to look at it because I didn't need it anymore. I got what I needed out of it, I got the use out of it, and the outcome was that I was a better person for having been in that sub. Whereas this sub, like I said, just seems like it's circling the toilet, waiting for the turd to jump out. And yeah. Or circling the toilet, waiting for someone to take them off the toilet, while at the same time just trying to get the turd to jump out of the bowl. It ain't gonna work. And that, to me, that seems to be the like when I'm making a comparison between the two, why I think the female dating strategy subreddit is it has an inherent flaw at the core of its idea. Whereas the red pill didn't. Its core idea was that men want sex, and we can tell you how to get better at getting sex. And ultimately, in the red pill, it was about how to be more successful at attracting women, and it worked. I can't tell you how many threads I saw where the guy, his first post was some horror story about how big of a loser he was, and then like a year later he'd have another post, and he'd put his old post in there so you could see, he'd link to it. And then he would tell you about how life had changed. And maybe every single one of them was a lie, and it was full of shit, and none of them happened. But even assuming that like 10% of them weren't, that's 10% of men who went out and got better at themselves. 10% of men who went out and improved themselves so they could have a happier life, so they could have more success with women. Now, the one thing that I will say about female dating strategy that I like, or rather, not that I like, but that I think is necessary, is that it does provide a place for women to vent their resentment and their frustration with the men that they have in their lives, these loser males that they keep attracting. I like that there's a place where women can go and do those things, but I think putting it in the context of, you come here, we'll give you a strategy, and then it turns out that that strategy doesn't really work all that well, because most men aren't looking to be married or in a relationship or even have sex with someone who acts like a dude, then I would say that the whole thing is completely collapsible. It's a house of cards. Like many things that come up within these sorts of spaces, is that they don't stand on their own 2 feet. Anyway, that was the talk I wanted to have. I've been mulling it over for a while now, and now that I'm off the dope and I've got more time in my hands and more sense of things, yeah, just wanted to make a comparison between the two and what I observed going through the subreddit and looking at their sort of key things as compared to the red pill. They're both places to go and vent, but I think the red pill had a much more surefire improvement track than the improvement track that female dating strategy is trying to promote. Anyway, that's it for me. Ka kite. And yeah, have a good one.